she touched the mirror because she couldn't believe that it was her. I remember feeling I wasn't worthy.
I am so excited today. I have one of my all-time favorite people with us today, KATHY Lambert. So KATHY has built out Dress for Success, which then turned into Connections for Success. And we're so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It's so great to be here today. And I'm just honored to have this opportunity with you.
Thanks. Let's kind of go back to some of those earlier days of, where you started.
My background, my family, extended family is Amish. And so I know that that's where that serving and just good-heartedness came from. But as I grew and I got married and went through some times there myself that at that time, and thinking about it, it was 30 years ago. People didn't talk about verbal abuse or mental abuse. And I made the decision to leave. I found myself, there weren't shelters. I wasn't living on the street, but I was homeless. And I was very blessed to have people that took me in to be able to stay. But knowing that feeling that I had to move forward, just that feeling of not wanting anybody to know. But then when I was going through all those changes, then I lost my job and I had to start over. I didn't know really where to go. I had an interview with an employment agency or a staffing company, and I knew that I had to get something to wear. And I had $5. So I went to the local, thrift store.
Sure.
And I got this gray skirt and this turquoise, sweater. And I felt so good. And I went to the interview, landed the job.
Perfect.
So that was,
as you would.
That was my step moving.
That's probably.
That was my step moving forward.
What were those granular decisions that you feel like you made throughout the process that got you to where you are now?
And I read this article about Dress for Success New York, about providing interview clothing to women that were transitioning back into the workforce, coming from difficult situations, whether it was incarceration, generational poverty, domestic violence. And I read that article and I thought, well, this would be great to do someday when we all think that, right? When I retire, someday when I don't have to make money, someday when I have time and I can volunteer. And I put the article in my basement, and I always think that God had just a different plan and has a sense of humor, because I would wake up in the night thinking about this thing. I thought, this is crazy. I know nothing about a nonprofit, nothing about doing this. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna call the founder of Dress for Success. And I thought, it'll put it to rest. So I called Nancy Loveland, the founder of Dress for Success, and she was so convincing and said, you have got to do this. And I'm thinking, I don't really know what I'm doing. And I went to our church, asked if they would take it on as a mission. I would help to get it started. And we could start providing interview suits. We can do a clothing drive. No intention of taking it on, but just starting it, because I didn't know what I was doing. And so here I am 20 years later. So it was really the beginning, I think, of taking that step and not knowing, but doing it anyway. And the women started coming to this little tiny church. They would come from the city. They would come some 2 hours one way just to get a suit.
Wow.
And to see them when they came in, their heads were down, their shoulders down. And when they put that suit on, and they were transformed.
That's really emotional, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And you know what? I think the very first woman that I provided a suit for, that's when it hit me of, I remember feeling I wasn't worthy. I remember feeling, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to move forward. And then when I put that gray skirt on and that turquoise sweater, I felt just like the woman did in her suit when she walked out. And her head was up, her shoulders were back. And she just looked at me and she just said, she touched the mirror because she couldn't believe that it was her.
Wow. And
I knew at that time that what I went through was really a gift.
Yeah.
it was a gift to help me to go to where I was headed next.
Let's talk about right now. What are you doing?
Well, so right now, our organization, Connections to Success, we just celebrated 20 years.
20 years.
Can you believe that?
No.
I was 12 when I started.
Of course, yes.
But we finally, I think that it's taken us like 20 years, but to actually see our mission come to life, and the mission of breaking that generational cycle of poverty, incarceration, and violence. And we've been working with parents and helping them to become employed and moving forward, but really so they can become role models for their kids. And today we're seeing their children graduate from high school. We're seeing them start businesses or go on to their jobs. They're not repeating those same cycles. And that, to me, I think is probably one of the biggest accomplishments that I've been very honored to be able to be a part of.
If you had 3 pieces of advice on ways that women can help women, what would it be?
So first of all, I would say to be intentional.
I love that.
Be intentional. We ourselves, and today I think with our society, it's all about me, right? Be intentional. Look, see who you're working with. See the person that maybe is at the store behind you at the store. Be intentional. And I always think too, those random acts of kindness and to reach out. Look for organizations in your communities that are working with women, and be a mentor, be a coach. But I think the biggest thing, take time, because time and time again, I ask the individuals, the women in our programs, and the men, we serve men too. And I always ask them, what was it? What was that turning point? You know what it was? It was someone who was a mentor. It was someone who walked along. And
somebody who really cared.
Yes, they would say, they called me every day and said, I can do it.
These women's stories are so impactful. ARRAS Sisters creates opportunities for women.